Hello. Hello, hello. Alright. If you're watching this video after the fact, make sure and check the notes in the description below for all the topics that we cover and when we cover them in the video. I'm not very organized, so this means if you don't have 2 hours to spend hanging out with us, that's a great way to skip around and stuff. And I should say that there is now a GitHub repository full of all the old note stocks. I think it's github.com/Adafruit/deepdive notes. Hey Johnny, hey Doctor. So Adafruit/deepdive notes, and you can. Patrick wanted a way to search all the notes, so what we've done is we've dumped all of them here, and then Patrick was awesome and went through and wrote a script so that all of the time codes are linked. So if you ever want to figure out when I was talking about something, this is a great way to do that. And while I'm thinking of it, this would not be possible without David, who takes notes every week. So thank you, or almost every week. So thank you so much, David, for that. And thanks to Patrick for the things. Hey Keith. Hi Keith EE. Hi Mark. Hi Beata. Thanks for hanging out. David pinged me 10 minutes or 15 minutes ago, and I was still out chatting with a neighbor. So luckily I have a list of all the stuff I need to do before I get things going. We do have no cats in the cat cam. I left the door open and the cleaner vacuumed in here, which is awesome, but scared the cats out. So no cats in here, and they're on their own. And I am actually in the middle of stuff too, but we'll get there when we get there. It's only 2 o'clock. We'll wait a little while longer. I don't think I'm going to need the overhead. I hadn't thought about that. Hey, Deshipu. Thanks for joining. Hey Bruce. I've got ice water. Keep me cool. It's 85 in here right now. I think the high today was 86. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius. I'm sorry. But I think everything's going okay. You all can hear me. I sound okay. Adam Jones says, probably a silly question, but 7.0.0 of what? That's not a silly question if you're new here. CircuitPython. So CircuitPython. Actually, let me just do the housekeeping. Hi, 3D Electronic. All right. So, hello everyone, my name is Scott and I work for Adafruit on CircuitPython. Adafruit is an open source hardware and software company based out in New York City. They pay for me to work on CircuitPython and do these streams. They are also, obviously, this is their channel. They're based in New York City. I work remotely for them, so I'm in Seattle here. It's kind of warm, 30 Celsius, says the chat. Thank you to Shipu and Bruce. So yeah, CircuitPython is a version of Python designed to run on microcontrollers, which are little inexpensive computers. They end up on boards kind of like this. The chip here is the microcontroller. They're kind of all-in-one computers that can run Python, which is awesome. So I've been working on that for a few years now, and yeah, so that's generally what we talk about. Adam had the question about 7.0 fixes is the title of the stream. Hello, Patrick. So that's what we're going to talk about. Although I was working on something before, so we're going to veer into pyOCD land probably, because that's where I left off before I went and got lunch. So if you want to chat with me and a lot of others, feel free to join our Discord server. That's the middle box here is our Discord channel. You can do that by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. This is a deep dive. It happens every week, normally Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, but occasionally shifted to Thursdays. Typically goes for 2 hours or more, so get comfortable. go ahead and do something else. I try to read off questions so that you don't have to be watching the screen. Questions are always welcome. And next week will also be on Friday, because next Friday is CircuitPython Day. So I should chat about that a little bit, but I saw some questions in the chat, so I'll get to those first. I don't have to say about the cat because he's not in here. He went downstairs. Okay, so hello, Dave. I think I said to everyone. Hello, Dexter. Hello, Minnesota Mentat. Hi, DCD. Hi, Rackbit. That's an awesome animation. Hi, foamyguy. Hi, Bruce S. Hi, Paul. Hi, Mr. Certainly. Okay, so foamyguy had a question. Mama Rolf says pyOCD. What did I call it? pyOCD. I think we're talking about the same thing. So foamyguy asks, random meta question about the stream. How do you feed the Sony camera into your computer to get it into the stream? It plugs in with USB and has a driver or something. Yeah, so I have a magewell. So the camera outputs HDMI, and then there's a magewell box that does USB 3 to my computer, and then just shows up as a regular kind of like camera for Linux. Wow, Bruce was busy. Mark says it's 95 there today in Canada. I don't use the webcam driver. No. I did go for a walk as well. Capture card or video capture device? Yes. I have a magewell, and if you want to know exactly what version it is, it was what Phil recommended I pick up, so I picked that up. And he paid for it, I think. So that's the dealio. I had a lot of trouble beforehand, and when I updated my motherboard, I was specifically looking for a strong USB motherboard. Mr. Certainly asks, what was the deciding factor for the magewell versus the Elgato offerings? It was just whatever. I just went by what Phil recommended because he's been doing a lot of stuff. He's been streaming for a while, so I just went with that. But Johnny says I use the webcam driver. It works fine except for Microsoft Teams. Bruce says firesmoke.ca showing our current level. Yeah, I can spell it a little bit. I noticed it like yesterday or the day before, but it's been not very noticeable. I have this. It's like somebody has a call coming in. It's not me, I don't think. Stay hydrated. Thanks, John. I've got you covered. I've learned to also go to the bathroom right before I stream because I drink so much water. Ooh, ribs and pulled pork barbecue. I'm barbecuing salmon tonight. That's going to be good. Okay, where do we want to start? Let's start with CircuitPython Day, so I don't forget to talk about it. I don't know what we've posted about CircuitPython Day. Oh, there's this cool video. Did you all watch this video? Yeah, so I'll be doing... It's funny. Oh, you can't see my screen. So, tentative activities. We have Jeff, Dan, and Katney are doing a stream again. I think they're going to show off some stuff. Oof. Yeah, we've had bad smoke days, but it's not been too bad. I actually do have... I can hold this up. So I have this, and maybe folks know, but I've got this thing I rigged for last year. This is the particle sensor, but it started giving me weirder readings. So it's saying like 5 right now. When it was really smoky here, it was up in the like 100 range or in the 10s range. But I have that setting set up, and it looks like it's actually kind of right now. For a while, it was really bad. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad, and the windows are open, so it's not too bad. So yeah, so somebody tacked on the special edition for the deep dive next week. If folks have ideas on how I could make the deep dive stream next week more special edition, please let me know. Otherwise, it'll probably be the same thing. Although it's not on here, but I think Keith the EE, correct me if I'm wrong. Hello, I am Joel. We are planning on doing a Reddit AMA next week, I think. And Keith can confirm, and if there's a link, Keith can put that in the Discord as well. But I think that's the plan. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a CircuitPython AMA on the Python Discord, or the Python Discord, the Python subreddit. So that should be fun, and maybe there's some topics that'll come out of that would be interesting. I'm Joel too? No, I'm Scott. But that's clever. Okay, so keep an eye out on the Python subreddit for the AMA announcement. But Keith E was asking me about it, and I was like, it would be cool to do that for CircuitPython Day next week. And he was like, okay. Yeah, sorry for all the folks that are dealing with smoke. It's no fun. I can relate. There'll be a pinned post on the main page of the Python subreddit. Oh, foamyguy, we could put this in this article. So foamyguy says it's less official capacity, but I'm planning to stream at 11 a.m. Eastern on CircuitPython Day as well. So yeah, there'll be lots of streams. We'll do the AMA. So that'll be cool. And if you have ideas that I could do to make my deep dive special next week, please let me know. Best way to let me know is just like join CircuitPython Dev on CircuitPython Dev on Discord and just at me in there. So yeah, okay. There was one other thing. Oh, so deep dive notes. What was else on my list? The Reddit AMA. Okay, so I covered that. So Ask Patrick W, who watches these streams occasionally and has been super helpful, was asking me whether I have a collection or a place where all the deep dive notes are. And so what I was like, oh, well, we could just make a GitHub repo for it. And the nice thing about GitHub repos is that what you can do is wear a purple hat. I don't know if I have a purple hat. I don't know. I could wear something, I guess. Yeah, so there's Adafruit, github.com/Adafruit/deep dive notes. You can clone it, and then you can, what you can do is you can like just grep it, like search the repo. I guess you could search on GitHub as well because it's not a fork. So if you ever want to find something on the previous deep dives from when we had notes, thanks to David, check this repo out. And Patrick did a cool thing, and I think I showed it earlier, but I'll show it again. If you click into a particular day, the time codes are actually links, so they'll link to like the specific spot in the specific video, which is pretty awesome. So thanks to Patrick and thanks to David for taking notes and putting that together. All right, if folks have more questions, go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, I think I'm going to just jump into... All right, I could look at what I've fixed. Maybe I'll do that first before I get into debugging. But I have been doing some debugging that I haven't figured out yet, so I want to get back to that. But let's just take a look at the PRs that came through this week. So thanks to David suggesting using all 4 LEDs on the mag tag as a status thing. Deshipu asks, how hard do you think it would be to get CircuitPython to run on the SAM L21 as opposed to the D21? Talk to the electronic cats, folks. I think they've tried it. they would have a better idea, because I think they were working on it. So I would Google around. I think somebody has been trying to do that, and I think it's Electronic Cats folks that have. The other person, I think Joey Castillo might have been looking at it as well for his watch. So I think people have been looking at it. How hard? I don't know. They would have a better idea. Okay, so we'll take a look at that, and the pulse out stuff I did. Oh, and you know what? I have a review to do to Dan, so I should do that as well. Multiple status neopixels. Yeah, I think that's it. So I'll do the review for Dan too. So a couple of fake sleep bugs on NRF and ESP. So fake sleep is when you write CircuitPython code that is doing a deep sleep. So when you do a deep sleep, it exits your code, and then shuts as much as it possibly can down before, and then wakes up based on the conditions you set before you went into deep sleep. But the way that it works is that if you're on USB, like you're testing your code, what will happen is that it won't actually deep sleep, because proper deep sleep will lose USB connection. So, but if you're prototyping it, we have a mode that is fake deep sleep, which is your code still exits, but the CircuitPython stays running the whole time. And we had a couple bugs in that code that had leaked in. So those are on the NRF and the ESP. So one thing I did was we added the ability for, thanks to Christian added the ability to save the exception string from a run so that you can access it the next time you run. And there was a problem with that with doing the deep sleep traceback, because the way deep sleep works is when you say exit and deep sleep, it actually raises a deep sleep exception. And so to fix a bug with that, what I did is it just said like, oh, so this is in pyexec. Just click it a little bit further. So where it's actually running your code is right here. So this is like, okay, so this is somewhere in, it's like in pyexec parse compile loop or something. So it sets stuff up and it does a function call to run your code. And then as it exits, it figures out like, oh, did it exit because of an exception? And then if it's a deep sleep exception, we'll set the return value to indicate that it's deep sleep. But then also if there is a result, what it will do is it will save it in this exception thing, and that's what gets printed by the exception printer thing. And so what I did is like, it was crashing when trying to use the deep sleep exception. So instead what I did is I just said like, oh, if it's deep sleep, don't bother setting the exception. So that was one fix. Another fix on the S2 was that if you did one real deep sleep and then USB connects and you're doing fake deep sleeps, the fake deep sleeps would not work on the ESP, because the ESP IDF, when you do this get wake up cause, was returning the value from the first deep sleep. So there's a flag here that just says like, oh, is this the first time we woke up? And if not, don't listen to the IDF. This was the bug that got me into it. The bug that got me into it was that when you're doing a time sleep, that's one way to wake up from a deep sleep or a light sleep, is based on time. And what was happening is that when we were fake deep sleeping a time wait on ESP, you weren't able to Control-C out of it like it says you can. And so what I did here is, the ESP is a little weird in that it has two tasks running. And so the USB stuff still works because the USB is running in a different task than CircuitPython. But what we were doing is we were only triggering the CircuitPython task when the interrupt character was set. but that's only set when user code is running. So what I did is I moved it kind of outside this check so that whenever Control-C is seen by TinyUSB, will trigger the CircuitPython task. And Ask Patrick found a SAML21 thing. And then this is just a minor thing for, I'm trying to get it going on GCC 11, and this is a minor thing for checking. NRF time sleep wasn't working because it wasn't setting this internal state when the alarms are actually set. It was setting it too early, and then I deleted a bunch of debug. It was resetting it back to 8. So yeah, I fixed that as well. That was one thing. This is the thing I was working on a while. PWMount, we're switching the API to take in a pin, frequency, and a duty cycle. Rather, the old API takes in a PWMount and then controls that, which is great, but it assumes the method for implementation, and the ESP32S2 doesn't actually need the resources that a PWMount uses in order to do it. So we started moving to this model, and you'll see it in, I think it's in 6, but it's in at least in earlier betas where like you can kind of do both ways, but you could only do that newer way on ESP. So I went back and made all of the implementations work like the new API, which takes the pin. And then I also found some PWMount problems, so I fixed those as well. And thanks to DMCom for doing some thorough testing on my stuff. I added support for multiple status neopixels, which I think I did on the stream last week. So that's good too. And did that for the playgrounds, and I did that for the mag tag at David's request as well. Any questions folks want me to answer? Hi, Onkar. Did I say it right? Maybe I should take a look at this. So this is Dan's been like working for weeks to try to make the audio playback better. So let me see here. He's got 6 files changed. I could probably do that on here. Katney's gonna try it. Crunchy playback and program hanging. He's still working on it. Oh, and there's 45 checks failing. Maybe I'll wait. I don't need to do that on the stream. Adafruit can build home automation full product in future. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Home automation is a lot of different things to different people. Alright, I think I'm gonna ignore this. Since there's more work to be done, I think I'll do that next week. So I thought talking about pyOCD would be a very cool thing for us to do. So folks may know openOCD, which is a way to... Oh, David says, any progress on your Gameboy related personal project? I now have a RP2040 GameLink adapter, and I follow someone making an RP2040 powered cartridge. I have not made any progress, but I would love to see those two things. If you have links for them, please share them with me. I'd love somebody else to make the hardware, honestly. What's this OCD thing? Yeah, so open on-chip debugger. So OCD is on-chip debugger. And it's the software, oh great, infinite redirect. Brilliant. So it's the software that translates between your debugger. Nothing's too much of a tangent. KRS13 says, what Game Boy project if it's not too much of a tangent? So I was working, the Game Boy project I was working on was a SAMD51 powered Game Boy cartridge that you could program in CircuitPython. So what CircuitPython did is it queued up assembly instructions to the Game Boy to do different things, like loading tile like sprites into memory and moving them around and all of that. I have a talk that I did at Teardown? I think Teardown Game Boy? I think it was at Supercharger Hardware Old and New with CircuitPython. I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you everybody for coming.
I always talk louder than I intended to.
Also those folks watching online now and in the future. So thank you. First, an introduction. I'm Scott Shawcroft. I go by Tan. Clock and power. I showed the website earlier.
Okay, I don't need to watch my own presentation, but I will link to it in the chats. But yeah, the basic idea is that Tangent of the past. Yeah, 2019. Deep Tangents is my nickname for this stream. Yeah, people have come to expect that. All right, let's not look at the terrible recommendations. Okay, so yeah, so the idea was making a PCB. I am not the owner of Adafruit, Onkar asks. But yeah, really trying to leave all your like gaming logic in the CircuitPython cart, but then using the Game Boy for button inputs and display and stuff like that. So yeah. Anthony says, I think they're asking if the home automation support will be complex enough to have its own API framework for CircuitPython. I don't think so. I don't think that we'll have our own framework. If you look, we already have like an MQTT library. And that's pretty good. And then a lot of our focus on the IO side right now is with Whippersnapper, which is very cool, and I suggest people look at that. But it's like a no-code, like just on the website you say what sensors are connected, and then it automatically will give you the values back from it. Adam Jones says, and yay, since nothing is since nothing is too much of a tangent, I'm getting back into microcontrollers to do a hobby project and looking for help finding any projects or libraries for signal triangulation. I don't know, but hopefully some folks in the chat here will have ideas for signal triangulation. I would ask what like types of signals you're talking about, like what what RF frequency ranges and things. KRS13, I work on a Python-based Game Boy emulator if you want to talk more about that. Sounds like a cool project, probably too slow for CircuitPython, but yeah. That's awesome. Kiwi SDR is a suggestion. Yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting from the perspective of the Game Boy cart stuff, because like it was us answering the CPU rather than us being the CPU. Like emulators are reading the ROMs, right, and then doing stuff, whereas like we're kind of doing the reverse when we're the cart itself. But I would love to see if we could find, if somebody found the hardware, like I did most of the software. I really got hung up. I think the RP2040 is a better chip for it, but I think the way that I was doing it with the CMD51, I was occasionally having to I think the DMA on the SAMD51 was not always timely enough for the Game Boy. So I think what was happening is that I was ended up returning the wrong data, and then it goes off into the weeds and crashes and stuff. So I got it a long ways through it. I got it. So folks are asking. Rackbit asks, as a Game Boy cart, you have to embed the Nintendo logo for copy protection, right? Yes. So you have. So the ROMs on the Game Boy will request the memory for the Game Boy logo, for the Nintendo logo twice. Once as a copy protection thing and once as a, like, now I'm going to display it sort of thing. And because we're not actually fixed memory, what I have the circuit, so I have code for CircuitPython to do all this. Like, I got pretty far. And I got it working on the Game Boy Color as well. So what I would do is I would return the Nintendo logo bytes back the first time, and then the second time I wouldn't. The second time I would return something else. I think I returned, like, I got an Adafruit logo instead. Okay. So there's both BLE Trilaterilation is on my short list of projects for my home system, so you have a recommendation. Or ham radio fox hunt stuff. Nice Game Boy type thing with a big sharp display. That's what the what these have. They just opened pre-orders for these two, I think, right? Tyth on Twitch says, can't find a whippersnapper software you talk of. Any chance of a link? Yeah, let me find it. I think if you go to blog.adafruit.com, and then I think it's spelled wrong, which we like to do. I think there's probably a blog post about it. Whippersnapper Wednesday. Yeah, so here's, I think, the best link for it. It's part of I/O. Somebody on Game Boy cartridge using RP2040. All right, let's pull it up. Oh, not there. Not there. Over here. Oh, that's awesome. Mine had MIDI, which is pretty neat, but I would totally just go with... Interesting. I wonder how it is connected. I shall follow this person, because that is curious. Thank you for the link, David. It looks a lot less crowded than my version, but my version has MIDI stuff, which is pretty needed. Pretty cool. Talking about triangulation and like indoor location stuff, let's just find this. See, I think more folks asked questions once we established tangents are okay. All right, let's make it a little smaller. BLE Beacon. So somebody was asking about BLE Beacon. Yeah, so in this, Thomas here just linked to 2 studies about using BLE beacons for indoor navigation. So I would recommend this as well. Dexter says, is there a limit on the sample rate of a WAV file for RP2040? We have, Dan's working on this actively, and check out that PR that he had. But basically, if it sounds bad, try a lower sample rate. Dan's doing a lot of debugging on the audio playback of waves on the RP2040 right now. So yeah, sit tight. That the audio playback should be getting better. Oh, cool. Eventually it would be cool to have narrated nature walk with the proximity-based triggers, but also at nighttime have lights illuminate as you walk near them. Sorry, I got a text. I'm such a terrible live streamer. We have visitors coming later, so. Tan Newt's tangents. That's a very core scenario for BLE Beacons at museums and stuff. Need to see it done in CircuitPython. That would be amazing. Laura and Blue Fruit Solutions might be better if you use for your use case. Yeah, if you're talking about location stuff. Doctor says, some streamers just do things and totally ignore the audience, so you're not that bad. And Mark says the ESP32S2 has something coming last I saw about Wi-Fi location. Tithe says, thanks Scott, got foxed by the British love of silent H's. Well, that and like, usually the way that Adafruit brands things is like, even if you think you know how it's spelled, it's not always the case. So yeah, happy to link you. I'm happy to do that on my stream. Happy to help people. All right. Should we pop the stack and get back to OCD? So there's openOCD, which I've kind of like had mixed feelings about. It's the software that bridges talking kind of to a microcontroller and talking to like a standard debugger like GDB or LLDB. I don't use that. JLink has their equivalent, which is the like JLink GDB server, which does that too. So there's that. Oh, the bot might have not liked the long jump comment. Sorry about the bot. If you think it was mistaken, then that's fine. Or we can fix it later. So there's also this project called pyOCD, which is what I want to actually, where I'm trying to go with this. pyOCD is pretty cool. It's all Python, and it's Python that talks to, hey Esden, nice to tune in once again, welcome. We're just hanging out. If you have questions, or I'd love to hear how things are going too. Okay, you deleted it. Hey, Unexpected Maker's here too. This is why I stream for 2 hours, so that people can drop in 30 minutes into it. That's the only reason. It's not all the tangents. It's not the fact that I haven't gotten to the thing that I would make sure and do. Or that I wanted to do. Oh, does it? Man, everybody's deleting stuff. Funny that you talk about openOCD and pyOCD right when I tune in. Yeah, I was wishing I had a black magic probe. I'm not sure I do. Hey, James. Getting off work. Ah, yeah, good. Tangent following engaged. Yeah, so pyOCD is really cool. Adafruit carries them, so yeah. I mean, I also got a JLink, and like the JLinks worked really well. But here's the but. So this has been the problem that I've had, is that right now ARM GDB hates me. David says, I got my Black Magic recently. Do I need to borrow? I might actually have one. So what's the... Unexpected Maker asks, what's the difference between pyOCD and openOCD? So I think they have the same role, but the way that... So there is some differences or some configuration that needs to happen on a kind of like per chip basis. And the openOCD stuff is in like Tickle or something. So like I obviously am biased. I don't know. Yeah, the site doesn't work still. So if we look in openOCD, like I've always said, yeah, there's like TCL stuff, and it's like all this, like it supports a lot of stuff, but it's like in a thing that I don't really understand. So it does a lot of things. It has a lot of support, but I have a Python bias, so that's part of my problem. Rackbit says, pyOCD does use the JLink software, whereas openOCD talks to the JLink directly, as far as I know. For my JLink Education Edition, for instance, it will pop up the daily warning window. Oh, interesting. But I have been enjoying using pyOCD a lot. Yeah, so I have a JLink base. So what I've been doing... So I have this problem. I'm trying to debug some crashes on the Feather NRF 52840 board in the like BLE workflow stuff. I got really hamstrung by it because what is happening is that the crashes happen when I do an LTO, link time optimized version. So link time optimization is where it takes all the code for the whole thing, all of CircuitPython, and it optimizes it all together, which is not something you can traditionally do for like big applications, but like microcontrollers are quite small, we just do that, and that means that it's also like a little bit more optimized because the linker and the compiler can optimize like the whole thing all together. But for some reason, that's called link time optimization, and I call it LTO for short. The problem is that my GDB has started hanging and just taking more and more memory when I try to load those binaries up, and I'm not sure why. So I basically can't debug LTO compiled things right now in GDB. I was trying my darndest to use LLDB, which is the LLVM version of the debugger. It loads okay, but it was... At one point, it wasn't walking this stack kind of... I was getting a hard fault handler, and it only walked the stack up to the top of the hard fault handler. It wouldn't go past that. So I started looking into this pyOCD thing because I was like, heck, I'll just write my own. You know me. I'm like, what if maybe I'll just write my own debugger. Nice. Evan PSD is now in the Discord as well. So you found the great place to ask about the positioning, indoor positioning stuff. I finally got openOCD working on my Mac to flash Sandy via my Atma Ice, but I prefer to use Python if I could. Yeah, so I've gotten flashing working. It's using the JLink, so that I have the JLink connected to the Feather. It is not very fast, but I kind of assume that's a JLink thing, not a pyOCD thing. So yeah, so I've been playing around with pyOCD. So I've got the script that I'm working on. And basically what happens with CircuitPython in these cases is that it's just crashing when it starts up. So what I have is just a script that is just like connect to the thing and like print some stuff out. So here's some, I forget what I started with. Some pyOCD thing, and then you can actually have it load. So if I want to load the file, I can uncomment this. Elf symbol provider is the like given an address we can figure out where it is. I feel like saying roll my own OCD is almost like saying roll my own crypto. Well, so the thing that seems pretty cool about this is that, like, this is kind of my debugger to some degree. It's not interactive, but it is, like, giving me enough information. So what I've got it doing right now is, like, I'm loading the symbols, I'm printing out the sections, I'm loading the file, but not really, because I haven't commented out. And then I just halt the target, and then I start reading stuff. So I read the program counter, the stack pointer, the 2 different stack pointers. So dwarf info is all of the debug info. So I get the dwarf stuff, I get some ranges, main compilation unit, and now I can do this, like, what line for this, or then I build this table for, like, given an address, what is the lines, more debug stuff. But I have this thing here. I know I elided that stuff, that's fine. This walks the stack. So for every value on the stack, it tries to, like, figure out where the value is coming from, and that gives me, like, a coarse backtrace of everything. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here's an example that I just ran. Here you can see that I was going to have it. So one way, if we have a safe mode crash in CircuitPython, all of those go through this reset into safe mode. So yeah, DCD asks, is this Python code talking through the JLink? Correct. So this Python code controls my NRF device through Python. Bruce says, I'm not sure what fast means. I use the mini edu JLink to flash NRF feather boards and it seems okay. Yeah, so what we have here is we can see the program counter. This is the symbol info for the program counter, and then this is actually the line info. So what we can see is that, like, when this halted, it ended up in this, like, startup phase thing. So what I've been trying to do is figure out why it's crashing. So it's crashing really. Something is being corrupted. So let me just comment this out and we'll rebuild and load. So let's make it. And while we're making it, I'll double click it. Hey, Mark. I don't think I said hi to you yet. Okay. Copy that over. Esden, if you're still watching, you might be able to help. I was trying to use... So there's a GDB server in pyOCD, and I was trying to use it from LLDB. But LLDB, I was trying to run the run command, and it doesn't work with pyOCD because it does some weird signaling stuff. This is the problem that I got burnt out a while back on. Okay, so I just copied it over. Yeah, LLDB is using the protocol differently. Yeah. Yeah, this protocol that seems like a standard, but that's not a standard. So I'm just going to hit restart on there. It blinked red for the bootloader, but then didn't do anything. GDB LLDB side is not specified. Only the side of the server. Yeah, even when I looked up, like, the K command for kill, it was like, this is different. Like, it's not well defined. It's just like, great. David asks, I remember you mentioning somewhere about a bug requiring a hit enabled device for MacroPod that got fixed. I think I'm hitting it. What do I need to get the fix? Latest CP, libs, other. I'd not I would just try the absolute latest version of CircuitPython first. Try that first. Otherwise, I would hop on the Discord and post the error that you're having. Anthony asks, who thinks that optimization is not worth it? Optimizing early is not worth it for sure. Mark says, I was playing with pyOCD earlier today, scripting flashing from our universal test jig. That's pretty awesome. Esden says, in any case, if you implement a client, you have trouble making sure it will work with other implementations. That is why LLDB does not always work. Same thing with other debuggers. Yeah, and that's kind of why I was like, maybe I'll just see what I can do with pyOCD myself. One thing I added in the script was like, if it hits the hard fault handler, it like automatically will print out like the hard fault registers, which I think is pretty neat. So I think there is a place for these, like, I'm just going to start CircuitPython up, run it, and then see where it stops. And these back traces are like not spectacular, but they're also not terrible. So like what we're seeing here is now we're in port init, and we can see the line is port.c line 156, and that's coming from the reset handler. So there's some weird memory corruption happening, and I'm not sure why. But if we pull up port, we can see that right in the top of port init, I have this like, if the prescaler is not equal to this value, then just spin. Oh yeah, there's the, if you heard the honking, like the intersection here has had like a number of times where people have gotten in accidents. It used to be, it's just an intersection. It used to have no stop signs at all. That was always a problem. And then they added 2 stop signs. So one direction you don't stop, and the other direction you're supposed to stop. It's just like, they need to put a roundabout in. It's like, it's a residential neighborhood. People don't need to go fast. So what this is doing is that there's this RTC config that initializes to this value. And then at the very start of port init, which actually is the start of main, what we're doing is we're saying if it's not equal to the value that it should be, then we're infinite looping. Oh, so I tried that. Edson says, trying to add support for the Blackmagic probe to Radare 2 was a nightmare as they used the protocol wrong. I actually tried that a little bit to see if I could get that going, and it was like no good either. Mark says, I couldn't get openOCD to flash an STM32L0 that was in low power. It wouldn't wake up before flashing, but pyOCD did it really easily. It's the whole pi versus tickle thing. Yeah. Yeah, so I think pyOCD is really neat, and it seems like a really, really handy tool. If anybody wants to figure out how to unwind the stack, that would be amazing. But I was starting to look at it, and it was like, it is complicated figuring out like where all the variables are and stuff. But yeah, I would love to see, I want like a PyDB, like not PDB, which is like the Python debugger for debugging Python code, but I would love like the pyOCD equivalent of GDB. I think that would be awesome, because Python is just like so much more extensible and easier to understand. Okay, yeah, so I have this check that's saying like, oh, if this value that should be initialized at startup is not what it is, then like wait. And so I was trying to figure out, maybe what I want to do is I actually want to do an object jump. So port here is checking RTC config. And then what I thought, so the way that this works, when you reset, the bootloader goes and then it changes changes the interrupt vector offset, and then it calls the reset handler. So the bootloader calls this reset handler directly. And it does two sorts of memory initialization tasks. The first here is that it copies data from flash to RAM, because those are all the like initialization values that are going to get used. So if we look back at this port.c, we can see that this RTC config is not const, which means you can actually change these values. So so that has to get initialized somehow, and the way that it's initialized is with the startup NRF52840, and it's just a while loop that copies data from flash into the spot in memory. And then the second thing is BSS is, I don't know what it stands for, but it gets zeroed out. So this does the whole range of zeros. So this is anything that is like that first struct, but all of the values are zero. They just get, you just do like a whole pass zeroing everything out. And then we call this system init, which is, I looked at, it looks like it's just setting some hardware stuff. But if I add this after, so this loop is a lot like this first loop, except what it's doing is it's saying, it's just checking. It's saying if the destination is not equal to the source value, then we infinite loop, and we'll see it on our backtrace. Otherwise, just increment the both, and then go around the loop again. So very, very similar. So, oop, wrong. So if I save that, Esden, what have you been up to? What's the latest and greatest from 1-bit squared? As I compile and reload it. Block started by symbol is BSS. Very old school thing from IBM times, according to Wikipedia. OpenOCD, I think, can do ESP stuff, whereas like pyOCD doesn't do ESP chips yet, I don't think. Which I guess I should have said earlier when Unexpected Baker was talking about it. Gian Dunn says, I'm fascinated by how many types of debugging and analysis can be done. Definitely a bit above my depth for now, but I know it's coming, hee hee. It's true. This is the first time I've done pyOCD. I've done it, I've done similar stuff before with GDB, but I can't. It's just the weirdest thing. It just, like, the very first time it happened to me, I just, like, my Linux computer screeched to a halt as the whole RAM got filled up. And I've been waiting to see like a new version of GDB come in, and I haven't seen it. And it's only LTO builds that do it too, so it's the weirdest thing. Ezen is fighting the chip shortages for Glasgow. Oh. Yeah, the chip shortage stuff is rough. Analog Discovery 2 will get me working with all sorts of low data flows like that. It's true. Yes, it will. Okay, so now we're stuck in the startup and line 69. So the thing I was going to add was actually, I was going to add a register print. Oh, not using OpenOCD with ESP32. So I think register prints can be pretty simple. I was gonna do for I in range. I think there's 12 that we can read. We can print. I've been doing F strings because F strings are all the rage. F string, reg 08. X. I guess that's not what I want. I just want. Reg equals that, and then value is equal to target read core register reg prints reg, and let's do an S string. Value, but we're gonna do it as a hex. So I'm curious to see what addresses are in there. And the reg. Let's see if that works. Ezen says, we made an FPGA mechanical keyboard, a Trace keyboard conversion with FPGA instead of an MCU. Now working on a demo scene, game console hardware with icebreaker-bitsy inside. Working on a new revision of the Blackmagic probe too to compensate for chip shortages and add some new features. Nice. Good to stay busy. I versus Reg. I suppose. You beat the script. Linux to boot on the icebreaker. That's ridiculous. I did like the Pi 5 stuff seems pretty neat as well. Should really remove this. So I think RAM starts. I don't actually know what RAM. 20-second boot time. That's impressive. Let's take a look at the map. Because I think this 2001-000 is the end of RAM, and then this 8064 must be where we are. So the map file, there's a great talk from Elicia. Oh, and I'm wrong. This 2001 is the start. It's the start of the data section, which is where we should start by copying. What is the end of it? This 2001-055 CC is not there. Huh. Because I was kind of hoping to figure out where in that loop it was. When it's validating that the... Like, so something's weird. Right, like, it feels like something in system init is clobbering my memory. So I don't know what happens if I do that. Let's just try it. Debugging stuff like this is like very satisfying when you figure it out, but and then while you're doing it, it's not very fun. But like, there was another failure mode I saw. This is where the timer stuff gets corrupted, but I found a spot where some data about the UARTs is corrupted as well. And so like, whenever you see memory corruption like that, like it's bad news and you should really try to find it. this is why I need to do Rust at some point, because Rust has more semantics that the language gives you, and which should make it easier for the compiler to detect them, so you don't have to do debugging like this. Okay, I'm gonna hit reset and then we'll do the script again. The other thing we could do is a watch point. Actually, that might be the next thing I do. Or make a random comment or print and hope the memory error goes away. Become a fellow Rustacean. It's only a matter of time. The people that have come being like, I want Rust in CircuitPython, I'm like, you get the build system going and I'm there, right? Like, I would love to start doing Rust in CircuitPython because I have spent so much time dealing with memory corruption issues that it's the worst. It's only a matter of time. Oh, look at this. So this value here is not at the start. It's later on. But I guess we're also... Now we're in port.init 156. So even though we commented out, we're still there? Like, there's got to be something super obvious. The program counter is in port.init. What is it? Objdump? I do miss having build, feather, armor, health. Pattern not found. Like, it could be some bad reordering. Here we go. No, see, like, here's main, and it's port.init. And, like, it branches right to port.init. I just got an email from Instagram saying we're sorry you're having trouble logging into Instagram. I did not just try to get into Instagram. Who's trying to log into my Instagram? Is there a button to say it wasn't me? Well, there isn't a button that says it wasn't me. Okay, well, could be phishing too. Todd says I get those all the time. Great. That's what we want. A space at the end of a max length string. So much love for Rust. I'm really excited to see where it'll be in a couple years. Yeah, so it seems like it's still not correct. I thought I had tested... So where's the reset handler? I expected that to be in here. Do I need to do a capital D? I just like put this extra like space into it. I have a while loop that is checking that the initialized value is what it should be, and it's not. Even though there's like no code that should happen before it. Oops. The vectors. Huh? What the heck? Oh dear. Why isn't it responding to me? There we go. It's reset underscore handler. Go figure. Okay. Like it just branches to main. So like what is messing my memory up? You know, I was thinking it could be some weird DMA or something. Let's see if we could set a watch point. We had a number. Let's just do the script again. This is what I like about this script is like, I'm not restarting the device every time. I'm just like changing the way that I'm inspecting it. I really should remove this CFI stuff. I was trying to reset or unwind the stack, but I'm not using it at all. I couldn't figure out how to get the right addresses. All right, so we're in port now. In reset handler. Right, interesting. So we catch it in port. It seems like a timing thing. Like, is something... That is so weird. Let's just watch this address. So I think what we do is we say... So somewhere commented out here, I have set breakpoint. Good night, Dave. I wonder if there's a watch point of that address. And then what we want to do is we want to reset and halt, I think is what it is. And then resume. And then since we're gonna wait, let's wait like 1 second. Is it set watch point? One thing that pyOCD does not do that they should is read the docs. For all this sort of stuff. Yeah, that's right. Set watch point has a size and a type. What do we think that is? I don't know what else it needs. Cortex M. Oh, it just calls out to the DWT, just this. If type not in watch type to function. What are my options? Oh, I see. I want rights. Yeah, open source is the best. It could be the soft device. I mean, size is going to be 4. Size is in bytes, maybe? Although their comments aren't that great. Watch size to mask. Well, that should work. 4 is a power of 2. Alright, let's try it. And I'm gonna... Oh. Can I not save it? I didn't. It's not gonna know what target is either. Offset. Line 70. Hmm. CU offset. Let's just wait a little longer. Which memory are you trying to ensure is not being corrupted? Stack, data, BSS, or code? Data. I'm on the chair. Yeah, do not model my posture. My posture is bad. It's still not happy and the stack pointer hasn't moved. Why is that? Like, there's this. I don't know if reset and halt is changing my program counter or not. Oh, there we go. Now the program counter is in the reset handler. Man, this CFI loading is slow. Line 59. Halt and catch fire. Huh, still pretty slow. What's the slow part? It could be, it must be these Startup line 59. Oh, see, we have a watch point. So what we have to do is we have to... This is the first time it's set, which is fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a loop of this for in range 2. We want to do this twice. We don't care about the first time. We care about the second time. And this is why pyOCD is really neat. But look at that. Like the second time, because core 0 is not halted. Well, where the heck is it? So it's like something besides the CPU is clobbering it, which is super bizarre. Is it possible my RAM is broken? I had it at one point read it back. Like, I'm on USB. I wonder if I disable USB, whether it works or not. Just do that. Switch it to charger. Okay, so now we're in the port stuff. So let's just print out this memory address. So we can print, see, we can read memory. So I don't know if we can read memory while it's not halted. Do you have a second NRF board? I do. In fact, I have one right here. To check against bad RAM. How do you get the not equal sign? I'm used to using exclamation equals. It's the font. So I type exclamation equals and the font changes it. Yep, I think you folks are right. We should do a... I have another feather right here. I'll just test it. It's 0. Which doesn't seem right. Bruce says Fira code. Yeah, I think that's what I'm using too. Yeah, Esden says ligature fonts for the win. Yeah, so ligatures are different symbols that happen when two characters are next to each other. I get nice arrows as well. Oh, apparently I don't have it in my terminal. I thought I did. Huh. Well, it didn't do the arrow there. That's so weird. Let's read it down here. I don't actually know what the value should be. One glyph for multiple characters. Used for good-looking prints. It's all zeros. You know what we could do? We could print out this whole range. Let's do that. For I in range. Target. So if we look at our memory map again, we're curious to go from, this is E data. 558. Yeah, maybe we're, so that's the end. So 0x558. And we're gonna want to go on 4 byte boundaries. And flash start is RAM start is equal to the 0x2 001 2000. I can actually tell range to go by 4, right? Assume I can read the flash then too. Flash start. Flash start is from the load address here. We're looking at the data section, and the load address is this. Okay, let's see what that does. It'll probably crash. Programming fonts with ligatures. Cascadia. Calling it target maybe isn't good. That's very true. That'll be a problem. Thank you for that. I'm assuming that's what the problem is. Offset. Offset's not defined either. Ugh. Do. So this is the timeout. Ah, okay. So you know the other thing I could do is I could say whether they're the same or not. It looks like they are. This could totally be not even a problem or something weird. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. The script thinks it's all okay. Why is that? But now we're in port line 156. Maybe this is not being initialized correctly? Port line 156 is if RTC prescaler does not equal frequency to prescaler. RTC config is here. So it should be within our range. What am I doing wrong? Any chance you can give a short overview of the issue? I missed bits and pieces. What should happen? So what I was finding is that so this is checking the RTC prescaler value, and if I remove this loop, it hits an assert later on in the code that fails. The assert is equivalent. The assert is pickier than this, but like I don't see any reason why like it should be the same. 006. I was hitting asserts. That was my problem, is that I'm hitting asserts. I don't know. I could look at this next week and be like, what was I thinking? This is not a problem. But it seems proper and it seems weird. What are the types for that struct? Maybe a type misalignment. Possible? I am compiling it with LTO. Alright, let's find this RTC config. I'm in debug mode. That's why I'm hitting the asserts. And I'm doing LTO. NRF X HAL. No, not HAL. Drivers include RTC. Here it is. It's a uint16 followed by. So why is it? It's 6. So 2 bytes, 1 byte, 1 byte, 1 byte. So it looks like it's aligned. This is where a real debugger would be nicer. Wouldn't have to do it ad hoc. But it should be at the start of that. Prescaler RTC config. 330. I want to print out address. I mean, it seems weird, right? Assuming the struct is static and not moving, since it isn't like that. I mean, that seems so weird. It's so weird to me that... Let me just... I mean, I do have edits to this. See, so if I save it and rebuild... What are the variables immediately before and after? pyOCD doesn't say anything's getting trashed though, which is very weird. Okay. Oh, you know what? We were gonna try a different one. I'm gonna switch the feather out right now. This one. Turn the data lines back on. If this works, I'm gonna like have no idea. I hope it doesn't. I spent way too much time on this. This is how it goes though. It's copying, copying, copying. Oh, it didn't start up. I get no blinky. Oh, we got an E there. That's a different value though. Oh, look at that. It's all different? That seems weird. We're in startup.c, line 69. Like it wasn't able to copy any of it over? Like it does look like it's not right at all. Let me hit the reset button again. That was unexpected. Yeah, I did not expect that. It's still E. And it's still wrong. It's like completely wrong. Did I break? Like this is right, right? Like, yeah, DCD, I had a code review for Dan that I was thinking about doing. But I wonder if it's reordering it. Let me... Maybe the compiler's being too smart. I mean, that it could be true. I decided not to do the review for Dan because it wasn't working perfectly. Is this what you were seeing before? No, it's not. Like, you would think it would be smart about ordering. So we've got 20 more minutes. I'll probably just keep banging my head on this. If folks have questions and want to distract me and take me on a tangent, now's a great time. So I don't have to keep banging my head against the wall. Yeah, it's easy to say the compiler's wrong, but in practice it's usually not. Alright, so there's a completely different value in there now. It was E. It still says it's completely wrong. Oh, you know why? I bet the bounds... I hard-coded the bounds of the... that's what it is. I hard-coded the bounds of what I'm comparing. So if we look at these two, at this number, it's probably completely different. What is the load address now? AFFD8. That's the problem with hard-coding it. And how long is it? I bet I could look it up from the debug stuff I have, but I'm not sure. C. How about having a GDB stub in the CircuitPython so you can connect with GDB directly? This is something you can do in situations where you want some debugging in an easy way and provide it without having a JTAG SWD adapter. I mean, my problem isn't that the stub problem. It's more of a general question. I don't really know what that entails. And given that the pyOCD GDB stuff doesn't work that well, then, like, my problem is GDB right now. My problem is that if I load an ELF that is an LTO into GDB, it just takes all my memory up. And if I use LLDB, it loads okay, but then the backtrace is not as good as, like, it doesn't. When I saw it, it wasn't going past the hard fault handlers. In this case, it might work. And maybe I should try that. All right, so interesting. Did I have an off by one error? That there's a single value that's wrong? Ask Patrick W asks, so I was watching you use the Salier in some older episodes. You mentioned your own analyzer project. Have you had time to think about that at all? Mark Gambler, I think, did a lot. And Esden might know that, actually Esden might know the SIGROC people. Last I heard, Mark had gotten the RP2040 connecting to a SIGROC and had a pull request open, but hadn't heard back from the SIGROC people. So Mark got really far with it, but then hit the wall of like trying to get it into SIGROC. And Mark's in the chat, so Mark will give us an update. It takes time to bring things in. I mean, I understand that, but last I heard he hadn't even gotten a reply. Like, I spend a lot of my time doing email. All right, here's the link. Mark got it going, and Kmatch did the work. Kmatch did the work to get it into SIGROC. That's right. So there's one value that's different. Okay, so I was wrong. Mark did some good stuff to CSV, but Kmatch really did the work to get it into SIGROC. Get all the control stuff going. So the first memory address is different, but by the time we're stopping, we're in port. I don't trust this power warning handler. Start at line 73. But we've definitely made right, so we're in main, and now we're in port line 73. We're not in the assert. We're in tickinit. Tickinit is in port 120. Oh yeah, so I have a similar check here. And if I uncomment that, or comment that, good night, Dishipu. I might have missed you. Doesn't make any sense to me. Makes no sense. I copied it over, right? Is this the magewell you have? I think so. Yeah. USB capture HDMI plus sounds right. This is okay. I'm not worried about that changing because we are further in the call stack. I can bug me after the stream and I'll look at my email to confirm the magewell. Yeah, see, so here now we're in assert. So we're in this NRFX RTC init, which had an assert problem, which is only going to happen in debug, which causes us to print it out. And then we get into printing stuff, and we're in printing stuff, and we're in printing stuff, and we're in printing stuff, and we have problems printing stuff. And we're trying to allocate an exception. All right. I've got to stop right at 4 because we have guests. The $20 HDMI dongle is really close in quality. If you're gonna text, you have to share your screen with the whole class. You missed it earlier. I was texting earlier too. That's not how it works. Yeah, so this is the problem. This is why I was like adding these things previously. It's like at some point I hit an assert statement and I have a problem. So I was like using these while trues to like stop earlier to figure out where is it being changed and why isn't it right? Let's just take a look at what this is. See, it's just a bit of math, so it's RTC input frequency divided by that minus 1. Which should be okay. Guess as in non-household humans in the same physical space. Strange concept. It is. I think they're the first guess we've had. Is this all before interrupts are enabled? Like no other code can run in spite of the while true. No, I think interrupts are on. I think interrupts are on. But by the time we halt, it should have run and we should see it. Right? Like we should be able to confirm that it's happening because we're printing out the memory. Right, like here. Or are we not going far enough? We're only going to... Oh, you know what? I bet that's it. Let's see. I'm dividing by 4 here, and then I'm going by 4 again. Well, that's wrong, so I'm not going to print everything off. 2231 Puppy says, I've never seen fish shell before. Should I try it? Does it work on Mac? It works on Mac, and I recommend it. So why was the first word reporting the difference? I mean, it's far enough along that maybe something's changing it. Like, I don't know what variable is there. But everything here still is the same. And we're still in this bad spot. What is the address of it? RTC config is 334. It's 0? It's being saved as 0? Because it's little endian, I think, so. 01DFC. The first 8 bytes or something is not user memory, but is something internal that the MBR or soft device uses. Really? I mean, there's system core clock is what's there. That first word is system core clock. I think we do set aside the RAM ourselves for the soft device, so I don't think that's the problem. out of ideas. Like, it's possible. It's 0. Which seems like it would be okay. The assert that we're actually failing is, I looked it up, my brain is toast. Include source. RTC init config pconfig prescaler set we're providing the address, right? Did I like accidentally type something? Did I delete a? No, RTC config with an ampersand. This is where I wish I could print. RTC frequency to prescaler. $32K. 0. Wait, so we got past this. Is this all just prescaler set? I don't know. I can wrap up here. Oh, it's in here. See, assert. Value has to be less than prescaler mask, which 0 should be. I think Mac comes with Z shell now. Yeah, setup of software UART. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with Mark that says I give up. All right, yeah, I'm gonna call it. Sorry. Sometimes you just spend a lot of time and you don't end up with anything. That's the way that programming goes. Thank you all for joining me for this deep dive. It's been a pleasure. If you have ideas on how we can make CircuitPython Days deep dive next week special, let me know. Check out the Python subreddit for information about the AMA that we'll do next week. And if you want to support me, go support Adafruit by going to adafruit.com, purchasing stuff there. They pay me to flounder around and not fix any bugs that may or may not exist. So thank you, everybody, for that. If you want to chat with me or you have ideas about the CircuitPython Day stuff, you can go to the URL adafru.it/discord to join there, and you can @ me at @tannewt there. Usually deep dives are more successful, but they're always include all these tangents. I do them Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific. Next week will be Friday and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Thank you for hanging out, and it's been a pleasure. And I can't pet the cat because he's not here, so I'll just see you next week for CircuitPython Day. Have a great weekend.